Hello, Human229 here with another Topic of the Week video. This week is going to be a very, very fun topic. Metal Gear. And not just Metal Gear, the inconsistencies of Metal Gear. I got one from an anon, and I've been saving this one because I had to think about this because there's so much to talk about. This video is going to probably be pretty darn long. So, this anon sent the topic. The Metal Gear series, the numerous plot holes, the awful retcons, and the nonsensical character derailments. Snake, Boss, Huey, Ocelot, Naomi, even Raiden. I'm looking forward to seeing you tear this series a new one. Oh, and how would you have fixed the canon? What should have happened and what shouldn't have, etc. I'm glad you asked. I'm a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid series. Got into it in high school. Just got it. Once I borrowed the first game from a friend, I went out and bought I found the Essential Collection for $20. Played it on my PS2, played the crap out of it. And honestly, I remember, I don't know, I think the only Metal Gear topic I've done before is the one talking about the twin snakes, last year for my video game month. I remember when I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2, and I knew there was a whole bunch of controversy about it. I knew that the ending was like a mind screw, and everyone like freaked out over the ending. And I started playing the game. Now I already knew about Raiden. I played this game for the first time in 2011. I want to say 2011, 2010, 2011, around that time when I first went into college. And I remember I played the game, and I already knew about Raiden. I have to say, I actually quite like Raiden. I like Raiden, and I like his relationship with Rosemary. So sue me. They actually ended up being shockingly one of the only things I actually cared about from that game. And it's one of the things that pisses me off about Metal Gear Solid 4, and there are a lot of things. But when I'm going to be, alright, now I'll be going game by game, talking about the retcons and stuff, and eventual character derailments, and what, all the crap that happened on a game-by-game basis in order of release, because that's when they retcon stuff. Honestly, I actually was just totally awesome about everything in Metal Gear Solid until I played Metal Gear Solid 2, and it's funny because I was playing the game and I got up to the jet plane fight. Is it the Harrier? Yeah, the Harrier fight. And my opinions of that was, so far the game has just been kind of a copy-paste game by numbers, but it's not that bad. And that was before I got to, and I ended up stopping there for a while because of school, and then I got back to it, and then I got onto Arsenal Gear. I'll talk into more about this in detail, but and then when I got to the end of the game, I was just like, what the hell did I just play? And I'll get to that when I go into Metal Gear Solid 2. So let's start off with the very first game, Metal Gear. Metal Gear was a pretty basic game. It was a game in the 1980s. I believe it was 1987. It was just bleh. Honestly, it honestly doesn't get more interesting until you start getting to Metal Gear 2, which has a surprise. Going back and rewatching a playthrough of that, it holds up surprisingly well. Obviously, if it was done modern times, it would need to be updated heavily, but it holds up surprisingly well from a game from I believe it was 1990 when it was released. There are retcons and stuff in that, but the first three games in the series, Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid, do have numerous retcons in them. Quite a bit. But these retcons are not bad. Retcon has a really bad connotation to it, and I have to say for a good 80-90% of retcons that exist, that is justified. A lot of times retcon stands for retroactive continuity. And it merely means that if something is established early on in a series, or established, implied, whatever, and then sometime later they go back and change that, they are creating retroactive continuity. Say a character, say you're in a show, an anime or something. A character kills this monster by like punching it through the gut, and then a couple seasons later they go back and they start talking about that monster again, and then they flash back and he shoots it in the head with a gun, and then everyone's talking about like, hey, remember when you shot that monster in the head with a gun? And everyone's like, yeah, and you're sitting there like, oh wait, no, he punched it through the gut. That's a retcon. Now, of course, there are plenty of other types of, nuances and other different variations of this. That's a blatant retcon. Some retcons are more implied, like, hey, it may imply it, or retcons also way a character acts, the character's backstory. Even things that hadn't been explicitly stated can be retconned, because everything is, like Otocon's story, and I'm going to get to that in Metal Gear Solid 2. But the point is, just because something has changed doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. And this is actually something that happens a lot in series. Sometimes a lot of people get hung up on something being a retcon when it's really not that bad. Metal Gear Solid, the first one, is rife with retcons. I mean, and it would actually be incredibly jarring going from Metal Gear 2 to Metal Gear Solid, because they start acting like a bunch of stuff happened in Zanzibar that did not happen. Like the whole thing when Snake says that Big Boss told Snake that he was his father, and like strong brotherly relationship between him and Gray Fox. That never happened. Like, you can go back, or whether you look at the original version or the remastered version that was with Subsistence, neither version contained anything close to the stuff established in Metal Gear Solid. That stuff was a retcon. But they're good retcons. They actually improve the story and make it more interesting. Hell, Naomi herself is a retcon, and by the way, I will be doing lots and lots of spoilers for the entire series. I should probably start off with that now. Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, V, Portable Ops. I will spoil everything. I will spoil it all. So, Naomi herself is a retcon. The fact that Gray Fox had an adoptive younger sister, never explained at all. Period. Like, no hint of that at all in Metal Gear 2. But then Naomi comes in and she starts talking about Frank as if she, she's been here the whole time. It's a retcon. But it gives an interesting new dynamic to his, to Gray Fox, and it really, really makes him such a sympathetic, it really makes him a deep emotional character, especially with his intense guilt over killing her parents, and then he adopted her out of guilt. And, she was just a constant reminder of, a horrible thing he had done, and it's like, wow. And the whole cloning plot thing was, Hideo Kojima admits, yeah, it's just a blatant retcon. I changed that because he wanted to have a villain that was an exact match for Snake, so that's why he created, they made them clones. Which ended up becoming the basis for the entire series. Like, the lore of the series is hinges on the cloning thing now. It's actually kind of interesting if it wasn't completely screwed up. So all this stuff in Metal Gear Solid 1, despite the fact that there are retcons, it's still good. And when I get at the end of this, I'll get to, I actually have already thought for years on how I would redo Metal Gear. And I actually do at some point want to do a comic about Metal Gear, and I'll touch on parts of how I would do that. But, there are several of the games that I would adapt with almost no changes. Metal Gear Solid 1 is one of those, Metal Gear Solid 3 being the other, with little to no changes outside a couple little things sprinkled in to tie things more to the overall mythos that I created within the, with the story. But getting to Metal Gear Solid 2 is when the series starts derailing. Now, oddly enough, though, I consider it almost irony. Excuse me, despite the fact that Metal Gear Solid 2 is actually the catalyst for the internal destruction of the series, it really doesn't have too many retcons. That's mainly because, okay, well, there are retcons, but not as bad as Metal Gear Solid 4 or Metal Gear V. I'm just gonna call it the Phantom Pain, because that's not a Metal Gear game. And that's really, the thing with Metal Gear Solid 2 is that there's a lot of new content. And, you know, I'll have to talk about this in another video, because this is a topic all to itself. I have to talk about the Kojima cycle, or what I have dubbed the Kojima cycle. You can tell the quality of a game depending on Hideo Kojima's personal feelings about the Metal Gear series and his fans. Literally, you can tell it's every other one, it changes in quality. Metal Gear Solid 1 was great. Metal Gear Solid 2 was awful and full of, hatred for his fans and hatred for the series. Metal Gear Solid 3 was amazing, the pinnacle of the series. Metal Gear Solid 4 was one of the lowest points in the series until the Phantom Pain. It was just a complete cluster crap of retcons and plot holes and bending the lore of the series over a table and sodomizing it, because Hideo Kojima was just like, F this, F you, F everyone, I hate everyone. And and even a lot of people have noted that Metal Gear Solid 4 has this intense subtext of self-hatred, and it's just like, oh my gosh, playing through that game it's awful. Then Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker comes out, and Kojima somehow regained love for the series, and even if it's not perfect, it's a good dang game. And actually has an interesting story, which I'll get to the bad parts of that when I get to that. And then you have Metal Gear, or you have Phantom Pain, and it's just like, you effed up a perfectly good game series. Now look at it, it's got anxiety. And then he's gone. Thank goodness. Now, Metal Gear Solid 2 establishes numerous retcons. Funnily enough, though, it's not really so much the retcons, it's the direction it takes the series in that really caused everything to go downhill. The whole conspiracy with the Patriots was super stupid. But one of the only blatant retcons in Metal Gear Solid 2 that's a severe problem is Otacon's story involving his dad. Otacon slept with his stepmother and caused his father to commit suicide. Do I even need to talk about why this is stupid? When you're creating an internal drama and a problem, an issue for a character to overcome, it's good to do something that's consistent with the character. Metal Gear Solid 1 established that Hal was a fairly naive scientist, a brilliant scientist whose love for mecha anime led him to create a walking nuclear battle tank, which, in his innocent naivety, believed that it was merely being used for nuclear deterrence as an anti-nuke, defense. And then in Metal Gear Solid 2, it's like, oh yeah, he had an affair with his stepmother and caused his father to commit suicide. And his father dragged down his, stepsister, who they have a borderline incestuous relationship with. And now she has a fear of water. I'm just sitting there, I'm like, am I the only person? I was playing the game and I'm just sitting here, I'm like, am I the only person who has a big issue with this? Like, you take Otacon. Otacon's a great character. And you just ruin it. Another problem, really, with Metal Gear Solid 2, and I could talk about this all on its own, and I can't get to all the details in this, because I would just make the video 3 hours long, is that the Metal Gear Solid 2, this is something no one talks about. The game skips over so much. Hey, remember Snake and Meryl getting together? They're not together anymore. Why? F you, that's why. It literally does not explain anything. Metal Gear Solid 4 gives a half explanation of Snake couldn't stop fighting. Well, then that doesn't give us an explanation for why Meryl isn't fighting with him. Why isn't Meryl part of philanthropy? She sure as hell would want to do that. She's a born fighter. How did Snake and Otacon become best friends? Answer me this. Even if you like, because we know that the Meryl ending is canon, and we've known this for years. And I think I saw reports that Hideo Kojima wanted to make it confusing on what ending was canon, so he cut Meryl out of the game so that people would think that the Otacon ending was canon, and then Meryl comes back in Metal Gear Solid 4. And it's stupid because Meryl is mentioned in the shadow in the darkness of Shadow Moses. This game is so frustrating. But, you know, like seriously, how did Snake and Otacon become such best buddies that they have a secret handshake? How did they go off and form this? It's like the games have this really big problem of skipping over a lot of story and then just being like, whatever, everything's different now. It's infuriating. Philanthropy is like, it's not inherently a bad idea. Hell, the Patriot plot isn't exactly a bad idea, but they give you no real, establishment, no real explanation for anything in this game. Because Hideo Kojima was trying to screw his fans over. I strongly believe that Hideo Kojima was trying to set fire to his own series. Oh, you want a sequel? Oh, well, you don't want exactly what I want, so I'm going to destroy this. Hey, did you like Snake and Meryl? Well, they're not together anymore. Now he hates her. He's going to say he's had enough of tomboys. Snake and Otacon are best friends now, which means that you're probably going to think that the Otacon ending is canon. I mean, there's so much pettiness in this game, it's ridiculous. And I think it's so ridiculous that this game actually, this isn't part of the retcons or anything. What really screws this game up is the fact that you can tell he hates his fandom. Which I find ironic since the fandom worships him. Metal Gear Solid 2 is literally saying F you to the gamers. It makes fun of people who play video games. It calls you pathetic losers, violent sociopaths. Or psychopaths, I guess might be a better term. But these people praise it as if it's genius. Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the dumbest games I've ever played. Outmatched by Metal Gear Solid 4. Which is just a terrible game overall. But the plot points and inconsistencies are so ridiculous. And if I want to talk about character derailment, Snake gets derailed, and it's so terrible because Snake could have been great in Metal Gear Solid 2. I like the idea that he wants to pass something on to the next generation, and he wants to inspire other people. And honestly, gosh dang it, if there's anything good in Metal Gear Solid 4, it's the fact that Snake was a mentor to Raiden. And it's like, that idea is so good, but it's so wasted because they're just trying to completely screw over all these characters. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. And no, don't even get me started about the Patriots plotline in this, which really only comes in at the end of the game. I mean, sure, there are hints that stuff is going weird, but they're just that, hints. That if they hadn't been mentioned, they wouldn't matter. But, oh yeah, and it tries to say that, GW tries to say it's the consciousness of the United States. And it's trying to control memes. And people are like, Hideo Kojima was so ahead of his time. Yeah, when he says memes, he uses it in the more traditional definition. But when he... when I played through Metal Gear Solid 2, the only thing I was thinking of was Nyan Cat and Rickrolling. Yes, the Patriots shall control Nyan Cat. And honestly, that would have been a better ending. Just Nyan Cat coming in and destroying everything. Outdated memes. How I love you. Just really the whole plot, and it went so terrible. And I say this so much. The Patriots plotline could have worked. The AI plotline could have worked. I'm not joking. As stupid as it was in the actual games, with the right approach, it could work. But Hideo Kojima didn't use the right approach. He purposefully used the wrong approach. Because he's a selfish and petty bastard. Metal Gear Solid 3, we get a ton of retcons in this game. Ocelot's backstory, Big Boss's backstory. But you know what? This is probably the best thing that happened to the franchise. Metal Gear Solid 3 is so good. I consider it the best game in the franchise. And to match it and to fix the outdated controls, Metal Gear Solid 3D with the Circle Pad Pro, the best game hands down in the franchise. Hands down. It has the great controls of the modern Metal Gears, but with the story and level design of Metal Gear Solid 3. I mean, geez, after playing the demo for that game, I could not go back and play the PS2 version. I played the PS2 version 6 times in a row when I played it. That's how much I loved it. I beat the game, cried my eyes out, then beat it 5 more times in a row. And then I played the 3DS version again. Which I honestly want to go back and play that again because it's so much fun. Oh my gosh. And yes, there's so many retcons in this. Who would have thought that Ocelot would have been this almost borderline prissy character when he was 20, who was just obsessed with going, "Rah!" Oh my gosh. And all this ridiculous stuff works. And it's like, and this is what I talk about Hideo Kojima's personal feelings affecting the quality of the games, which I'll have to talk about the Kojima cycle another time. He loved the games now, and everything, and I think I've seen other people have said this before, everything clicked together. Hideo Kojima, Yoji Shinkawa, Harry Gregson Williams' music, everyone came together in this game and made a great game. Of course, they have to screw it up afterwards. And I really don't have a lot to say. There's really not much to complain about in Metal Gear Solid 3. There really isn't. Metal Gear Solid, the next game that comes out is not a Hideo Kojima game, but it's a game I feel is kind of underrated, Portable Ops. Now yes, Portable Ops has crappy gameplay. I would actually love to see it given a Metal Gear Solid 3D style treatment on the 3DS with along with Peace Walker. And you have the the newer gameplay with enhanced with better textures to the levels, but we can't have everything. The story in it is actually pretty good, and I actually kind of like it. It takes place in 1970 on the San Geronimo Peninsula. When I don't get why so many people have an issue with the story overall. The story overall is pretty good, and it actually serves to give an explanation for where Big Boss got the money to build Outer Heaven from. He got it from Gene, but because he was going to build Army's Heaven, and he's like, no, I'm going to build a different heaven, Outer Heaven, and it's cheesy and stuff, but it's great. There are, however, some stupid parts in this game, and it's what really keeps me from really loving the story. First off, Gray Fox, or as she's called in this game, Null. I like Null. Null is a cool character. What's not cool is making him Gray Fox. Gray Fox was a kid in the post-war, during the end of the Vietnam War. He was rescued by Big Boss. Metal Gear 2 states that he was rescued post-war from near the end of the war, after the war, from a re-education camp, basically a Vietnam concentration camp. And that was the first time he saved his life. The second time was, I don't really remember, I'd have to go back, but yeah, I think he saved his life twice. The Big Boss saved Frank's life twice. But Now we have him as a teenager in 1970. Aside from the retcons, this does one thing that really annoys the hell out of me, and it's actually something that I only thought about today. It makes his cyborg ninja transformation an inevitability. I like the idea that Frank had a thing for swords and knives before he was turned into a cyborg ninja. It's actually one of the few fandom interpretations that I actually downright enjoy and support. Him being a swordsman, it makes sense. It gives an explanation to why he's using a sword almost exclusively in Metal Gear Solid. But the way they do it in this is they have him be this brainwashed, perfect soldier, and he got the name Frank Jaeger because he had the frankness of a young boy, and Jaeger means hunter, and he was a hunter with knives. And it's like, cool story, bro. It's very much the embodiment of that sounds fake, but okay. Meme. I love Frank Jaeger and I love his story, but this really mucks up his story because it tries to complicate things when there didn't need to be a complication. It's really just, what could have been a really great Metal Gear story, an introduction to a young Roy Campbell, an establishment of Gene, and I like Gene. I think Gene is a cool villain. There is one thing that he does that really annoys me. That is the single devious mastermind plot point. This is something continued in Peace Walker, and I'm going to talk about that when I get to it. I hate this so much. The single devious mastermind behind Operation Snake Eater. I hate this plot point. This is one of the few things in Peace Walker that I absolutely despise. The entire point of Metal Gear Solid 3 was that it was not planned. The only thing that was planned was the Virtuous mission. The whole thing about Operation Snake Eater is that it was also started off by Volgan. And, he's just a sadistic bastard who launched a nuke on Russia and blamed it on the boss. And now and Khrushchev wanted America to kill the boss in order to prove that they weren't involved with attacking Russia. Operation Snake Eater was a messy, spur-of-the-moment thing, sending an injured man after his mentor because he's the only person that they think is close to being able to take down the boss. The emotions of this story aren't because there was someone evil who hated the boss. There were emotions from this because it was so unnecessary. They could have faked the boss's death. They could have gotten the boss out. America could have done so many different things. But they didn't. The politicians in charge screwed the boss over to save their own necks. They took the easy way out. This is what caused the distrust for Snake, and was ultimately what caused his transformation into Big Boss. He hates government. That's why he went off and created his own nation, which is one of the things that Peace Walker got right. The problem with the single devious mastermind is that it boils the betrayal of the government down to a single person. One person hated the boss and made Snake kill her. This negates his entire hatred of governments and should be a hatred of Hot Coldman, who we find out in Peace Walker is the man responsible for it. And it makes no sense. Especially doesn't make sense since Hot Coldman seems to downright idealize the boss, despite saying how much he hates her. which is just an inconsistency. This plot point is really, it's one of the things that downright ruins things. It ruins one of the core tenets of Metal Gear Solid 3. It ruins the entire core of Big Boss's character because it reduces him to being someone who is just angry. Oh, I'm pissed off. Well, no, it was a betrayal of his government. Not just one person, but the government as a whole. A bunch of people came together and said, screw the boss, we don't want to we don't want to get in trouble for this. And this idea that, and especially, I think Gene had a line of, or someone had a line, it was in that, or Coleman said it in, no, I think it was Gene. He was like, do you think Volgin would have shot that missile on his own? And I'm just sitting there like, yes, did you not play Metal Gear Solid 3? Volgin is a sadistic psychopath. The man wants to murder everyone and gets off from causing pain and destruction. Hell, it's like, he was pretty much raping Eva and causing, well, maybe less raping and more just downright, like, torturing her for kicks and giggles. Did you see when he interrogated Snake? We see when he interrogated Granin? Like, he kills people and causes them immense pain, and he gets off on it. The line from Team Force, from DBZ Abridged, when Vegeta tells Frieza, he's like, do you know why I do this? You get off on it? Oh, maliciously. That is Volgin's character. That's the kind of person he is. So yeah, he gets his hands on a mini nuclear warhead. Of course, his first reaction is just going to be, I'm going to launch the nuke in my own country. The boss did it. It wasn't a manipulation. It wasn't planned. It wasn't part of a mastermind scheme. It was simply because Volgin is an idiot. Volgin caused destruction not because he was told to, but because he wants to. He wants to hurt people. He wants to blow things up. And he blames it on everyone except himself. For political reasons. Changing that changes Metal Gear Solid 3. And that's something that, I don't know if Hideo Kojima just can't let go of Metal Gear Solid 3, but everything seems to revolve around Metal Gear Solid 3. And while the relationship between Snake and the boss was super important to his transformation into Big Boss, you gotta move forward. You can't have him and I mean, it's like, I like him being stuck on the past as a character, but when the whole narrative and plot are stuck in the past, it really messes things up, narratively. Those are the two main issues with Portable Ops, and I talked quite a bit about Portable Ops. And it's surprising, that's only the only real two problems that the game has. I actually like the fact that at least in her dying moments, excuse me, gave the prediction of, stuff from Metal Gear Solid 2, or from Metal Gear Solid, and saw the series play out in her dying moments. It's a touching moment, really, and her death was actually really sad. But, it's like, there's so much good in the game that I overall like it. I just ignore a few bad parts. Which is the same that can be said about Peace Walker. Now, I don't want to do this. Now we get to Metal Gear Solid 4, and oh my gosh. Metal Gear Solid 4 is the destruction of the franchise. If Metal Gear Solid 2 was the catalyst, Metal Gear Solid 4 is the result. Kojima never planned on answering anything from Metal Gear Solid 2. Not at all. That's why he made it as confusing and mind-effery as possible. The whole thing is a mind screw simply because he didn't want to have there be any answers. Which, in a series like Metal Gear Solid, if you can't just throw in a whole bunch of random stupidity. Honestly, it really speaks to the terrible writing of Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 4 that I would have preferred that the game be virtual reality. People want to act like this is a brilliant theory, but just like the indoctrination theory, it's a cool idea that exists simply because of how badly written Metal Gear Solid 2 is. Like the indoctrination theory, the whole thing of everything was so completely stupid, it had to be because it was just a dream and indoctrination. The "it was just a dream" cliche comes out here simply because what happened was so stupid and made so little sense that the only real reaction to this has to be, well, that couldn't have actually happened. Metal Gear Solid 2 gets so mind-effery at the end. Like the mind screw, the complete plot holes, the random introduction of characters and all the pointless stupidity, and the downright inconsistencies and just general, like, weird stuff that happens. It can't have really happened, except it did. I'm not someone who says that everything had to be a dream, because I think that kind of messes with, it makes things pointless, but honestly, I'd take it as being pointless if it meant Metal Gear Solid 4 being better. But all this insanity was led to Metal Gear Solid 4. And what's really painful about this is that Hideo Kojima could have taken this in so many different directions. But this is the game that probably has the most self-hatred in the entire series. And you can tell that Hideo Kojima is most bitter about this game, because the whole thing the idea of self-hatred and, getting old and stuff pervades this game. The old Snake thing is so stupid and just, So, let's talk about the nonsensical character derailments in this. That's one of the big retcons. I have to start with Naomi, because this is one of the biggest issues that I have. Naomi hated Snake in Metal Gear Solid 1. She was under the impression that he cold and callously killed Frank Jaeger. When she actually meets him and she finds out the truth that he didn't actually say, I've killed you, Frank Jaeger. It was a sad and solemn thing for both of them to fight on different sides, but they fought with everything they had. The reason that Frank wants a rematch with Snake is simply because he was really denied his defeat, and he was like, okay, I want a rematch with Snake. He wants to die by Snake's hand. He's in such insufferable pain, both emotionally, mentally, and physically. Like, everything about him is in pain, and he wants to die, and he wants Snake to be the one to kill him. It's only in the end, when he sacrifices himself, that he actually finds purpose in his life again. And that's the ultimate tragedy of Frank Jaeger. It was when he finally came about in his life to realize he wants to do something to help people. He wants to help. He doesn't just want to die. He wants to do something meaningful and pass on a message to Snake. And then he dies. And it's like, that's why Metal Gear Solid 1 is so great. Naomi realized that Snake was not anywhere near the person she thought he would be. That it's not just his charming exterior. It's not just the fact that he's a flirt, or that he's hot, or the fact that, he's actually like this suave and daring, spy. It's the fact that she realized that he was, at his core, not a bad person. He had regrets about his life. He had his own self-hatred, and he hated himself for all the things that he had done. But he just bottled it up and didn't, expose it. It wasn't until Meryl that he actually decided to accept, I did those things, but I can do better. I don't have to keep living in the past like this. Which ultimately I think is one of the lessons of Metal Gear Solid 1. Metal Gear Solid 4 is basically like, hey, remember Naomi? She's evil. Why? Who knows? Hey, she also created nanomachines. What? Nanomachine? She didn't create nanomachines. She's a geneticist. This has been brought up by other people who've reviewed Metal Gear Solid 4. When you're a super genius in one aspect, okay, this isn't like movie science. Here's the problem. Metal Gear Solid 1 was really good about avoiding movie science. Basically, if you have a doctor in front of your name in movies, you're basically an expert on everything. It's a doctor ex machina. These people know everything. They know all sorts of things. But when it's really specialized, like Naomi was in genetics, you specialize. You don't learn a whole bunch of stuff. You learn one thing. It's like she created a virus that could specifically target people's DNA and kill those specific people and be entirely harmless to everyone else. If you're that smart of a geneticist, it's doubtful that you have other skills that are that good. Okay, she was a decent medical expert too, but that just goes along the lines of geneticists, like along the path of learning this. At no point is building nanomachines. I mean, this is one of the biggest plot holes in the entire series. How in the hell did Naomi begin nanomachine? Not just that, she invented nanomachines. She gave snakes some nanomachines. She explained what they did, but she explained more of the medical function of them because Naomi was the Foxhound medical expert, along with working with the Pentagon to create the Fox dye virus. She did not create nanomachines, and for some reason they give her this weird backstory with Vamp. Like, she gave him nanomachines that caused him to heal, and she created him. And she also had this weird pseudo romance with him, except she also loved Hal, and she slept with him, and then she's just like, oh yeah, Hal, sorry for taking your virginity, I'm gonna die now. I'm done crying. Naomi, teardrops. Naomi deserved better than this. And it's like, after having her get over her hatred of Snake and come to accept, that, well, really, she's the one in the wrong here. What does she do? She sides with the bad guys. But I forgot to mention, Ocelot was the good guy. Ocelot, the murderous bastard who's been backstabbing everyone for years and wanted to create, we know from Metal Gear Solid 1, if you survived 3 rounds of the torture, he said that he wanted to create an eternal war. He wanted Big Boss's dream to come true. He wanted the world stuck in war in a never-ending war, because he believed that people's true natures only came out when they were tortured and hurt and fought. An interesting motivation, right? Nope, he just wants to save the world. Also, Metal Gear Solid 4 tries to say that Big Boss was really a good guy, and that Snake was actually fighting for the Patriots. Big Boss was evil. Big Boss was murdering people, kidnapping their children, training them to become soldiers, to kill more people, to create more orphans, in what he described as a machine. He wanted to create a loop of eternal strife and suffering because he believed that's everything that the world deserved. He believed that that's the only purpose for the world. He says it's the only way to create a place for us as soldiers, that we would never be discarded by our governments. Oh, but he was just fighting the Patriots, right? That makes him the good guy. Oh. Freaking hell. Ocelot, he's evil. He was, honestly, Big Boss at the very least believed that he was doing good. He wanted to create war for people. It was bad, and he was absolutely nutters, and one of the few good things in Metal Gear Solid 4 is seeing Big Boss, and I know as random and stupid as that is, him coming back as sorrowful and incredibly sorry for the things he had done was one of the most satisfying things. And of course it had to be oh yeah, by the way, here's Zero. Remember him from Metal Gear Solid 3? He's evil. And I'm killing him because that makes sense. It's oh, if it was just and his death scene, okay, killing him off and then bringing him in just to kill him off was stupid, but at the very least, the scene was well handled. This is good, isn't it? And this is actually something that a lot of people have said, some people have said, even critics of Metal Gear Solid 4, and I agree on this, as much as I hate the game. That whole ending part with Snake and Big Boss is good because it wasn't trying to crimp on the rest of the game. It wasn't riding the coattails of Metal Gear Solid 3. It was building something entirely on its own, and it's a scene that, for the most part, I use in my own, my version of Metal Gear Solid. I liked that confrontation and that openness between Snake and Big Boss. Because one thing that we never actually get to see much is the fact that Snake, saw Big Boss as a father figure, and it's something that was part of the retcons. But it's like there's so much interesting character story between them that we never get to see, and we actually got to see it here. Of course, there was stupid stuff in it, and he died because Fox died. But another thing to talk about, Hal, Otacon. It's like they progressively just zapped Otacon of his entire personality by the time they got to Metal Gear Solid 4. And what really infuriates me is this part where he's talking to Naomi and she sees I think she sees it was an anime background or something, and he's just like, I used to be an otaku, but I'm not into that stuff anymore. I'm like, what? Your name is Otacon. It stands for Otaku Convention. You're such a huge, pathetic nerd. You named yourself after an otaku convention. You don't just stop being interested in that stuff. Obviously, he's not going to be sitting here binge-watching anime all the time. But it's like, do we have to cut out his entire personality? What makes him so interesting in Metal Gear Solid 1 is his love for anime is what really drove him to develop mechs. Metal Gear came because he wanted to make stuff like Macross, and he wanted to make stuff like Gundam, and Zone of Enders. But now it's like, what does he do? I am generic good guy scientist who does nothing because Sonny is literally a deus ex machina. Oh, also, did we mention that Naomi is a super ultra hacker programmer? That too. But Sonny is the 7-year-old, and oh gosh, Sonny, she is so adorable. I love Sonny, but she's used as nothing but a deus ex machina. Oh, we get to see Olga's child. Oh yeah, wait, did I forget to mention the fact that the stupid part of Metal Gear Solid 2 is that Olga's just killed off randomly. She jumps in and then gets shot in the head by Solidus. Oh, Solidus, you had so much potential, but don't worry, I care about you. Yeah, so we see Olga's child, and they actually do get some neat moments where Naomi is sort of a surrogate mother to her, and then she dies. Because, Naomi dies because drama. Hey, let's leave Sonny alone and have her lose another mother figure. Yeah, that's great. Let's just let her be raised by Otacon, who's going to be miserable forever. Yay! This game is such a happy ending. Do I need to even talk about Raiden? I need to talk about Raiden. I need to talk about Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 4. It's not even just because the Anon wanted me to. I will talk about Raiden. I liked Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 2. I liked his story for the most part. Outside of the whole backstory of him being a child soldier, I like his character. I like his relationship with Rosemary, and I like how he struggles to really focus on that. And I like how they do have troubles as a couple, but they ultimately came back together and said, we're going to work for this. And they had a child, she was pregnant, and he's just like, I want to take care of, you, and I want to take care of our child, our unborn child. Oh my gosh, all this cool stuff. What do they do with this? Yeah, Rosemary tells Raiden that she miscarried and their child died. Raiden left to become, he ended up becoming a cyborg, and his Naomi supposedly married Roy Campbell, but turns out that that was just a facade for the Patriots, and their son is actually alive. This is the same issue with Snake in Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4. You don't give Raiden this positive ending, and then immediately after that, destroy it. And have him be miserable and just mopey and hateful and, there's nothing in my life. Oh, I'm more depressed than Batman. Oh my gosh, I hate Metal Gear Solid 4 Raiden. I don't understand, like, the stupidity of the Metal Gear Solid fandom. I hate Raiden except Metal Gear Solid 4 he's a robot, because all I care is cyborg ninjas and fight scenes, and I don't really care about the characters. Oh, I hate the Metal Gear Solid fandom so much. Or should I say the Kojima fandom? Because they're literally just riding Kojima's dick all this time, and they don't give a crap about Metal Gear. Raiden's character was irrevocably... His character was ruined in Metal Gear Solid 4. And I hate that so much. His relationship with Rosemary is ruined as well. It's like, geez, could we not have him have a relationship with Rosemary? Could we not just have him with his son until not the very, very end when he's a miserable mess, hating everyone? Just, oh my gosh. Ugh, talk about the character derailments, and that's just another thing. But I've been saving the biggest character derailment. Oh wait, before I get to the biggest character derailment, I need to talk about Meryl. Oh, what pisses me off about Meryl in Metal Gear Solid 4 is that they do... It's funny, because I didn't notice this until my second watch. I watched a playthrough of this the second time. She actually, in numerous points... Excuse me. Is really nice and kind to Snake, and the Snake is just like, there's nothing but death, crime, and the rage of a beast. And it's just like... I know he's like old Snake now, which is a stupid plot point. The artificial aging for Solidus makes sense because there's no way he could be the president with the same birth year in 2000 with the same birth year as Snake, or even he's younger. He was born in the... I mean, he would have been too young to be the president, so artificial aging was necessary. Why the artificial aging for Snake? Why? Because Hideo Kojima hates Snake and wants to make him suffer. That's really it. The fact that he wanted to end Metal Gear Solid 4 with Snake and Otacon getting brutally, like, shot to death by firing squad because he hates everything so much. Yeah, you can tell how much he cares about his characters. It's like he treats Meryl so awfully, and don't even get me started on the fact that she hooked up with Johnny. Like, oh my gosh. And it's like, and Meryl is actually kind of a cunt in this. Like, she is a jerk. And like, but everyone but Snake. Like, she treats Johnny like utter garbage. And really, like, I have to talk about him. I'll talk about him in a minute. You know, okay, so he's incompetent. And what really pisses me off is that Johnny was never incompetent. No, really. He had diarrhea, but he was never downright incompetent. In fact, in Metal Gear Solid 1, he is the strongest non-boss enemy. He has the widest and most, craziest field of vision. And breaking out of that cell, he's a bastard to take down. He's probably one of the strongest genome soldiers. And what is he reduced to? In Metal Gear Solid 2, I really love how they actually turned him into a genre savvy. He was just like, okay, yeah, I remember I got knocked out and left naked in the cold last time I met a pretty girl. So, deuces, I'm out. And when you met Emma, I'm just like, that's such a great moment. And Metal Gear Solid 4 just comes in, craps all over that. Meryl treats him like crap. He's insulted, and he's treated as nothing but a butt monkey. I'm not saying he needs to be hyper competent. He somehow becomes hyper competent in the end of the game for no reason at all, he's just like, pew, 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 pew. He's just like the greatest thing ever. And I'm just like... Then he hooks up with Meryl after she treats him like garbage. And she's like so mad at, Roy Campbell after she found out he was her father. And like, you don't even develop that point. We never... Here's one of the biggest issues. We never know her mother and father. We don't know anything about Matt Campbell. You want to know something? Matt Campbell was a name that came from the Snaketail Confidential Legacy. I kid you not. If it wasn't for this alternate universe tale involving the story explaining Matt Campbell, we wouldn't have a name for Roy's brother. I don't even know if it was mentioned in Portable Ops. But it's like... And we know nothing about her mother. Nothing outside of her being mentioned in Metal Gear Solid 1 is telling Roy that he was... Roy, you are the father. And that's it. I'm like, her anger feels so unjustified simply because, we know that Roy Campbell's a decent person who wants to do his best to help people. Even if he's strong-armed into doing horrible things. And just to have him act so nonchalantly dickish in Metal Gear Solid 4 pisses me off. And Meryl, when she's not around Snake, she's just angry and attacking Akiba. What a stupid nickname. It's like... And then all of a sudden, she somehow just gets a huge lady boner for Johnny. And it's like... And it really pisses me off because he gets super creepy after he takes off his mask. He starts turning into this super pervert, like out of nowhere. Like he was gonna grab Mei Ling's butt until Meryl slapped his hand. Like, no. It's like, shh, stop. And in the end, when there's that big shootout with Meryl and Johnny, and they're just doing that completely stupid thing, and he's just like, it's like, let's move in together. And she's like, yes. And he's like, no, let's get married. And she's just like, no. Johnny, I want to marry you on my own terms. Marry me, Johnny. And then they get married at the end of the game, and I'm just like, what the hell? This isn't just a big FU to Snake, Snake and Meryl's relationship. This just downright doesn't make sense. If you really wanted to have them get together, have them build up a relationship, not have her hate him up until the end of the game, and have him be a completely incompetent idiot, bumbling moron, only to have him be turned into the most hyper-competent person in the entire game. It's just... Ugh. And then I have to save the biggest character derailment ever. Eva's or Big Mama's Patriot reveal. She comes in and is like, hey everyone, remember the support team from Metal Gear Solid 3? They're all evil psychopaths. They're all evil. Completely evil. Even Paramedic. Miss Sweet Cinnamon Roll Paramedic. She's evil. She's actually Dr. Clark. She ran experiments on Gray Fox. Why? Because she's evil. What? What? Sigurd is evil. Zero is evil. And then, me and Ocelot, we had to fight them because they were evil. Eva, I like your character. You were not a good person. What really pisses me off about this is this thing of, they turned evil, but Ocelot was really a good guy. I mentioned this before, but what? How in the hell? It's just... It's like, in this plot twist is so stupid because it makes absolutely no sense. The idea that they founded the Patriots with good intentions is a neat idea. But the fact of, and then they went completely evil and tried to take over the world makes no sense. And this is BS about Zero misinterpreting the boss's will. Like, can we let go of Metal Gear Solid 3 for 5 seconds? It's like, geez, Kojima. It's like, The boss was important to Snake. She was important to Big Boss. In his story and his ultimate false villainy. She was the cause of his start of darkness. She's not the cause of everyone's start of darkness. Zero doesn't lose it. Zero, for some reason, out of nowhere, loses his mind. Wants to clone Snake because I'm evil. And it's like, what? The worst part about this is that there are fans who actually take this seriously. I've seen otherwise smart people treat this as entirely logical and go on about how, oh, I hate that the support team of Metal Gear Solid 3. No! They're goofy idiots. That's what they are. Honestly, if they started the Patriots' good intentions and it somehow got out of control, that's one thing. But this whole Zero is evil, and which continues on words through Peace Walker and V. Just, I hate this so much. Zero is such a big good. And here's one thing about his character that sums up his character in a succinct way. In the beginning of the Virtuous mission, he tells Snake when he's going to get Sokolov, he basically tells him to say, "I'm sorry it took so long." And when you get to Sokolov and he says, "I'm sorry," he says, "I have a man who sent me," he says, "He's sorry it took so long." And then he's like, "Do you know what that means?" He's like, "It means your commander is a man of his word." Zero is such a good guy, he could never do something evil. He could never do something evil. And anyone who says that Zero would ever turn evil is an idiot, a moron, and does not understand the character. They obviously weren't paying attention to Metal Gear Solid 3. Because they're sitting here stuck using Metal Gear Solid 4 as the basis for their understanding of series lore. Paramedic being bad makes no sense. She is so nice and so caring and so sweet. And she's a Cloud Cooklander. You're telling me that she was the evil Dr. Clark that was so vilified in Metal Gear Solid 1? Yeah. Screw you, Kojima. And for those wondering, actually, Dr. Clark being a he is not actually stated in the Japanese version. They use gender-neutral terms when talking about Dr. Clark. So Dr. Clark being a woman isn't exactly a retcon. To tell you the truth, I actually do use a variation of this plot twist. But I do it in a way that's not offensive to the characters. Sigint, I love how Sigint went from being this like development spy stuff to being like, oh yeah, he built a bunch of AIs, and then they went and retconned that again with Peace Walker. Oh yeah, it was actually Strangelove. I'll get to that later. It really pisses me off because their explanation for Donald Anderson being Sigint was, Ocelot killed him because he hates the Patriots. You know what's actually super hilarious? The comic, The Last Days of Foxhound actually handled that better, making Sigint look like and Donald Anderson look like a hero who sacrifices himself in order to keep the world from ending by striking a deal with Ocelot. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'm not sure if I'm mixing this up with my version, because my version of that scene actually heavily pulls from The Last Days of Foxhound version, because I really like that interpretation. It makes Sigint look like a good guy. And sure, he's he did some bad things, but he's not a horrible, evil, person who wants to go and murder a bunch of people. Ultimately, this whole thing is just a big cluster crap. Everyone is ruined. Everyone is derailed. Everyone is completely screwed over. There's no happy endings, despite the ending wanting to... everything in this game is just such a big FU to Metal Gear. And for people who actually, and for anyone who thinks that Metal Gear Solid 4 is a good ending to the series, obviously doesn't know what they're talking about. This is one of the most unsatisfying and downright awful endings that I've ever seen. This is like the ending of Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann bad. This is oh yeah, a bunch of horrible things happened, but I'm happy. This is a happy ending. This is a happy ending. People... Yeah, our friends have died or have been erased from existence, but this is happy. Ugh, screw you, Kojima. Now, I'm done with Metal Gear Solid 4 because I don't think I want to talk about that much more right now. Now we get to Peace Walker, a game I actually like. The problem? Some stupid choices with the writing. Stupid. First off, they completely retread the boss. Like, okay, so they introduced Strangelove, and Strangelove is a character I actually really like. The whole lesbian, in love with the boss thing it's so unnecessary. It doesn't even fit. It's like, it doesn't really make much sense anyway. And it feels like it's there just to be like she's gay, so, yeah. And that's really it. It has no real bearing on her character, in all honesty, outside of being a creep, and this is one of the things I don't like about her, is the fact that she's molesting people young women that we think are teenagers. She molests Paz, who we all think is 16, so Strangelove is in her 30s. So she's sitting here trying to molest people, and just, oh my gosh. Yeah, I just ignore that, because otherwise she's a decent character. The whole thing with the AIs is actually interesting, and her having a pre-existing relationship with the boss, though, I really wish there was more of, it's weird, because the boss has always been sort of a big mother figure. So, and having, Strangelove have a mother-daughter relationship with the boss actually works much more strongly with her conflicting, with her conflict with Snake, when she sees Big Boss and she's just like, why are you so important? What is so important about you that you're the only one who knows what really happened? Why don't I know? It's like, the whole I'm in love with the boss thing was just, it felt so weird and out of place. It almost felt the same reason as the, oh yeah, by the way, Vamp is bisexual line in Metal Gear Solid 2. It's like, yeah, and he was sleeping with Fortune's father, and now he's sleeping with her, and it's just like, oh, wait, what? How is this relevant? But, just, but other than that, like, the real big problem with this is the fact that they keep retreading over the boss's story, and Strangelove keeps talking about all this stuff with the boss. And what really pisses me off about Peace Walker in this regard is that the boss was a well-respected hero who was screwed over in Operation Snake Eater simply because she was politically inconvenient. Now, in Peace Walker, it's like, oh yeah, she's literally been screwed over every day of her life by the United States government. I'm sorry, it goes from making her look like a strong-willed woman who is able to sacrifice herself for the greater good in what she thought would unite the world, rather than break it apart, to a pansy who just, honestly, is just who's just getting whipped constantly by the government and doesn't care because, oh, I just love America, so I love getting screwed over constantly. Also, the fact that they tried to establish that she was in a coma back when she was in previously established battles. Good job. Good job in continuity, Kojima. It just retreads the boss's story and does nothing. It adds nothing. The whole Peace Walker thing and the Peace Walker AI is what really adds to the story. Because this has nothing to do with the boss in and of herself. This has to do with Snake's personal feelings towards the boss. And as goofy as the ending got, I like the fact that he saw Peace Walker and felt like this was the ultimate betrayal from her. That it's implied that there's, the spirit of the boss, was in Peace Walker, and it basically refused to fire the missiles and drowned itself in order to keep from causing world destruction. Ironically, the one time the boss would have betrayed orders, and honestly, I like this idea because Big Boss looks at the boss as his mentor, his leader, the one person who gave him direction in life, who taught him everything he knows. So he could. Let me gather my thoughts. He considered her, in his own ways, putting down the gun an ultimate betrayal to everything she taught him. She taught him how to fight, but she obviously didn't teach him enough on that fighting isn't everything. And that flaw is what ultimately causes him to hate the boss and, and basically drop any care and start on his ultimately path of becoming the power-hungry, murderous warlord we see in Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. And that really struck me. This is one of the reasons why I consider Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker so good, and why I actually do solidly consider it Metal Gear Solid 5, is because it finally moved Big Boss's character forward in a way that wasn't stupid. Portable Ops just kind of meandered around with his character. He kind of progressed a little bit. It gave us a little more explanation on stuff, but it didn't really move his character forward. But Peace Walker, really, like, that ending, man. And, like, the part where you had to shoot the boss's horse and then it flashed back to the boss, I was legitimately, like, about to cry at that part. Like, and I was just watching a playthrough when I first saw this. It was before I actually got the HD collection and played it. I was just sitting there and just like, not the horse. No, don't do this to me. And the fact that it got such an emotion out of me, one of the reasons why I love it so much. It really tugs at your heartstrings without doing something stupid. Yes, the Peace Walker plotline is goofy, but this is Metal Gear Solid. Should I bring up Psycho Mantis? Hot Coldman was a good idea executed wrong. I like the idea of his whole idea of deterrence being, like, he believed in deterrence and that no human has the balls to press the button and destroy humanity. But, with a robot, they will, if you're being fired on, they will retaliate in kind and will destroy the earth. The mutually assured destruction is what really makes deterrence work. And, it's an interesting idea, but one, his hatred of the boss makes no sense. Two, having him model the AI of her, having the Peace Walker AI modeled after the boss, even allowing that makes no sense if he hates the boss. And two, the core thing that's wrong with his character is him being the mastermind behind Operation Snake Eater. What? No, and I already talked about this when I was talking about Portable Ops, about why this is a bad idea. I mean, geez, it would have been so much more interesting if he actually idolized the boss, which is what I do in my version of Peace Walker. That he loves the boss. He thought the boss was the greatest thing ever, and he's memorializing the boss down in history as Peace Walker. Of course, he's effing crazy, but what do you expect? He's a Metal Gear Solid villain. And honestly, I really loved Amanda. I loved, oh my gosh, and there's one thing I have to give Peace Walker. The retcon to Master Miller's backstory is so good. This is a good retcon. I love his new backstory. Like, I love the whole thing about him being half Japanese, so he has the blonde hair, but he's still half Japanese, so they kind of keep parts of his original character. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And Kaz is such an enjoyable character and such a great foil to Big Boss. I hate that they ruined him in Phantom Pain, but hey, that game's not canon. Yeah, I mean, like, so many cool characters in Peace Walker, and then of course I'm just, pretty much killed off or ignored in Phantom Pain because we can't have nice things. And honestly, I am still to this day convinced that Amanda is Meryl's mother. Still convinced. Still convinced. I mean, seriously, she looks just like Meryl. Ultimately, I think that's really the... Oh yeah, I also have to talk about Huey and Strangelove. I talked about Strangelove being the creator of the AIs, and I thought this is a much better idea than having Sigint suddenly become a computer AI programmer, because that's doesn't work at all. Strangelove basically fills in a plot hole, mainly, for the most part, somewhat. And I really loved Huey and Peace Walker. I loved Huey and Peace Walker. I love the fact that he and Otacon are so similar. Like, you just have to ignore Metal Gear Solid 2's stupidity, because I just really I really wish they got to interact, because they would have been so similar. They're both huge nerds, and just him and Strangelove hooking up is so great. Honestly, I knew that she was Otacon's mother long before the Phantom Pain confirmed it. And that's literally the only canon information I will take from the Phantom Pain. That one picture of Strangelove with Otacon. Little baby Hal. Aw, it's so cute. And it's like, and it's so great because that was just what Peace Walker was ending with. She actually really did like Huey, but she didn't want to admit it because, oh no, I hate men. Why are you clutching that picture of Huey? No, shut up, I hate men. I hate men. Thousands of pictures of Huey fall out. No, I hate Huey. Trips, thousands of more pictures fall out. That's pretty much her character in Peace Walker, and that's just hilarious. And Huey was so great. I loved Huey. He's the same kind of idiot his son is, and it's just so fun. And I actually like that they straight up established that he was the pen pal that Granin had. Is actually mentioned in one of the side conversations in Peace Walker. I really love that because Snake brings up Granin, and he's like, yeah, he's talking about he discussed stuff with Granin, and then Snake's just like, oh, so you're the American pen pal he told me about. I'm like, yay, continuity. Other than that, really, I think I'm done with Peace Walker. You have to move on to probably the most painful thing on this list of games. The Phantom Pain. Spoilers! The Phantom Pain. Not that it means anything, because there's barely any story in this to begin with. First off, I have to say, overall, the story in this makes no sense. We have parasites in Metal Gear Solid now. We had advanced viruses and nanomachines before, but an actual, super Resident Evil style transforming parasite? Are you freaking kidding me? This is so Resident Evil. It doesn't belong in Metal Gear Solid. Screw that. But ultimately, one of the biggest, retcons in story has to be Skullface. Skullface, Mr. built-up villain for years and years and years, and he gets 2 minutes of screen time to give us information that we already got in trailers. And then XOF, oh yeah, we were the shadow group for Fox. Despite the fact that Fox was pretty much created specifically for the Virtuous mission. Oh yeah, they also had a shadow cleanup organization. We followed you throughout Operation Snake Eater, cleaning up your messes. Okay, I have issue with that. I have so many issues with that. The whole point of Operation Snake Eater was to very obviously have Snake trek across Russia, blowing crap up and killing the boss. He is instructed by Major Zero, to blow up a helicopter because it would be an obvious sign that he was there to Khrushchev. There was no cleanup crew. He is specifically stated to be alone outside of his support team. Eva is his only field contact. It's the only, it's literally the point of the game. Why do we have to keep going back and ruining Metal Gear Solid 3? It's such a perfect game. Let it rest. Skullface could have been an interesting villain. He was built up as this big, ideologically driven villain. Ultimately, he's just like, I hate English! I hate that language! No one should speak English, ever. I will kill people who do. And that's his whole character. Huey, oh, for the love of God. Huey, what did they do to you in Phantom Pain? I was excited to see him come back. At first, when I first heard news about this, but they did such a disservice to his character. All of a sudden, he's considered the villain of the game. This guy is such an awkward nerd. There's no way he could be a villain. Oh yeah, he killed Strangelove. Excuse me? He wanted to use Huey as part of a machine. Excuse me? This all bullcrap, and I will fight anyone who says that Huey is actually evil. Huey, we see in Peace Walker. That is what Huey is. An awkward, naive, super genius. He's like Otacon. This would be like if they turned Otacon around and he's just like, oh yeah, I killed my father and I killed Meryl too because, you know, I also killed Sniper Wolf because I'm evil now. And this whole thing of him lying and causing death and destruction, for what reason? There's no reason for Huey to even be in this game. There's no reason at all. His character's derailed so intensely, it makes no sense. And don't even get me started on what they did to Kaz. All of a sudden, he becomes evil? No. Let me explain how this should have gone down. Big Boss is the one who's supposed to go evil. But Big Boss runs off and he's just like, I'm gonna throw my doppelganger out because, you know, I'm just going to run around and do stuff. This is freaking Big Boss we're talking about. The legendary soldier. The greatest soldier of the 20th century. And you're telling me he just runs off and leaves a doppelganger? The medic just happens to be the most competent person in the world? And this plot could have worked had you had ultimately a fight between him and Big Boss, with Big Boss having to fight the organization that Venom built up. But no. We have to say that this is the guy who was in Metal Gear 1, because this is the answer to a plot twist that no one wanted to know. We know why he survived Metal Gear 1. Because he's a villain! He's a super villain in a games based off of crappy, old cheesy action movies from the 80s. And I love how they completely missed the point. I love how this is supposed to be some brilliant plot twist. Guess what? Big Boss survived Metal Gear Solid 1. It's explained in Metal Gear 2, or Metal Gear 1. He explained it in Metal Gear 2. Oh, did you forget that part where he saved everyone? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you forget Kyle Schneider? Did you forget Gray Fox? Did you forget the survivors from the Resistance? He saved them? Kyle Schneider explains this in Metal Gear 2. Big Boss stayed in Outer Heaven, saved everyone who was there, and got out, or well, most people who were there. He saved members of the Resistance, including Kyle Schneider, who was left for dead by NATO. You're telling me that Big Boss had a doppelganger who died, and you're telling me that Big Boss was also in Outer Heaven 2, saving people and coming back in Metal Gear 2? Yeah, that's why this plot twist makes no sense. And if someone actually likes it, if someone thinks this is good, you're an idiot. You know nothing of series lore. Despite the fact that this game wants to act like it, despite the fact that a lot of these games act like they know series lore, Kojima doesn't understand his lore. He keeps forgetting stuff, or outright likely purposely ignoring it just to create new stories. But he's such an idiot. Like, no, this is the answer to a question that was already answered in Metal Gear 2. We got this answer 26 years ago in Metal Gear 2. Big Boss explains this. Kyle Snyder explains this. There was no doppelganger. It was Big Boss. And this could have been a cool idea. Not executed at all in a good way. And then we have, he's like, alright, now let me tell you what this should have gone with Kaz. Kaz should have been the voice of reason, consistently. The whole losing Mother Base was stupid, because then they freaking build another Mother Base. What's the freaking point of destroying Mother Base? Oh, well, we need a reason for Kaz to go crazy and evil. No, Kaz didn't remain consistently level-headed. It's in line with his portrayal in other parts of the series. In Metal Gear 2, and even Liquid's impersonation of him in Metal Gear Solid 1. What should have happened is that Big Boss should have, they should have had to go through some tragedies, and Big Boss slowly starts losing it after, events of Peace Walker. He's already got this idea of doing Outer Heaven, but he starts getting more and more crazy up until he reaches a breaking point where he outright kicks Kaz out of the organization. He kicks him out of Outer Heaven. MSF is now is become Outer Heaven, and it's run by Big Boss, and kicks Kaz out and tells him to go to hell. So Kaz goes to Foxhound. Tying things together. That's how you do it. And then we have boring Ocelot, and people have noted this. Ocelot is flamboyant and over the top in every single game except this. There's literally one good scene with Ocelot, and that's when there's a Diamond Dog soldier who's pulling a gun out and shooting from the hip, and his gun gets jammed, and Ocelot grabs the gun. He points out that he was using the wrong shooting style, and he wasn't rigid, and the way he was shooting caused the gun to jam. And he also noticed that the gun had a whole bunch of engravings on it, and he's talking about how this has no tactical value whatsoever, and I'm like, that is such a good callback to Metal Gear Solid 3. That is a good reading. Hey, if there was actually a strong friendship between Ocelot and Big Boss, let's see it. We could have gotten that chance, but we got nothing. He does nothing in this game except talk about plants and animals. It's just, he's so useless in this game, and he tortures Huey, and that's it. He tortures Huey, and that's all he does. Hey, do you want to see interesting parts about his character? Well, we're going to skip all of that to show you him talking about animals. And he has no ulterior motive. Sure, he helped with the doppelganger stuff by psychotherapy and nanomachines. Yeah, he made himself forget. He does that a lot. Honestly, I like the idea, though, from Last Days of Foxhound, that he has so many... he's so smart that he's, hundreds of plans running in his head. It makes it impossible for someone to read his mind. Like, when Psycho Mantis reads his mind in that, he's just like, how the hell do you keep this straight? And he's just like... Honestly, that seems more in character than this. It's like, he has, and Ocelot has no ulterior motives in Phantom Pain. He's legitimately just there to help. Jeez. Talk about a waste. And Troy Baker. Holy crap. Troy Baker does just such a good mid-range between Patrick Zimmerman and, who is his voice actor in Metal Gear Solid 3? I can see, I can picture him. I just can't think of his name. But, he does a good middle ground. The only thing that's weird is that stupid cowboy accent he does, which doesn't exist in all parts, because there's some parts where he sounds so, he's starting to become the Patrick Zimmerman Ocelot, and he looks the part, and oh my gosh, they just screwed up so much potential in this. Big Boss is just pathetic in this, because the game tries to act like Big Boss was nothing special and that anyone could be Big Boss if you made him think he was Big Boss, which completely goes against every single other game in the series. Big Boss was special. He was super special. You want to talk about him not being special? Metal Gear Solid 3 is full of so many insane feats. And especially a vast majority of that he did with multiple broken bones with less than a week of recovery. Oh yeah, and did we forget the part in Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker where he bench pressed a mech? Yeah, you know, all these, you know, fighting against these insane odds. And he did all this with an M16 and an M1911. So, yeah. You know what? Screw you. And should I even talk about Quiet? I mean, really, she's not part of the contradiction since she's a new character. But I do want to talk about the fact that they wasted her character on nothing but really crappy fan service because Hideo Kojima is just a perverted old man who's sitting there and he's like, oh, yeah, oh, what are you doing? Just designing a complex and new character called Quiet. Yeah. You're so complex, Quiet. Literally, one of the most uncomplex characters. Seriously, they should have just gone with the theory of her being the N's great-granddaughter. That would have been so good. That would have been so good. That actually is what I do in my version of the story, since I do an adaptation of this. Where he, and actually, she actually has, she works with the Fear's grandson, who, you know, who also uses stealth, and oh my gosh, those would have been good callbacks to Metal Gear Solid 3, not this crap. But really, the whole series is just a cluster crap, and I think I've gone through the games. I don't even know how long this video is at this point. It's probably like an hour long over an hour long by now. But now to talk about the stuff I would have fixed. I actually came up with, after I played through Metal Gear Solids 1, 2, and 3, I came up with a comic idea. I want to draw this out. The simple premise of this was that Snake and Meryl stay together. It's their lives in Alaska, and the character development that comes after that, and their romance together, and how this would have built up. And as I was sitting there and I was going through the games, I kind of was just sitting there, I'm like, oh wait, I think I can do this Patriot plot better. I think I can actually do this. So then I extended the story to be a bunch of stuff. I include the Patriot plots, but I change stuff. I'm honestly not going to give, you know, a bunch of details, since I do actually plan on doing this at some point. But the Patriots are involved, like Solidus is in it, and he is actually a smart anti-villain, and that's the whole point I thought he was going to be. I thought he was legitimately going to be, like, putting on a facade of hating Snake and Raiden and everyone, but that's really just a facade so that the Patriots think he's just basically Liquid 2.0, but he's really running all these plots. Excuse me. Ocelot would be a consistent character, who ultimately would probably be the main villain of the series, considering that he's always there. And his entire shtick is wanting to cause endless world war, like Big Boss wanted. Basically, when I change a lot of elements to it, but I keep a lot of things. Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3 are almost entirely unchanged. Peace Walker and Portable Ops would both happen, but they would be changed. They would have changed elements that make them more in line with the other games. I would go, basically, the whole comic would be done anachronistically. It wouldn't be like one story and then it continues. It would actually touch on a whole bunch of events, and I would have to actually keep a chronological order of it. But the actual full story would span from World War II all the way to the 2000s, explaining everything that happened, and basically saying anything that was left unsaid would actually go, and I would give an explanation. And like Metal Gear Solid 2 would happen in a way, Raiden still comes in and stuff, but I actually change it to where it's not dumb. And again, I can't, I can't, I don't want to spoil everything and just tell the whole plot, but suffice to say that I do take inspiration from Metal Gear Solid's 2 4 and V, simply because there are some cool ideas in it that were hopelessly ruined. But, you know, important stuff is that Snake and Meryl stay together, and their relationship is actually super important for their development across the series. We actually see Meryl come into her own, and I do at one point want her to fight a Metal Gear and win and prove that, you know, she's accomplished what she had wanted to do. She wanted to be a soldier like Snake, and through her hard work, she actually accomplished that. Raiden becomes part of philanthropy, and, you know, he's basically he has a mentor-student relationship with Snake. I actually introduced a number of new characters in it, and, like, I elaborate on who Sunny's father is, and I do all sorts of stuff like that. And I really just want to ramble on about this, but suffice to say, I cut out a lot of the stupidity and a lot of the unnecessary complications in order to make things make more sense. Like, I will say that, you know, like, I elaborate more on Frank Yeager's life. Like, I would actually go back and do entire stories that are super important to their characters. Like, I would do an entire, like, mini, like, series of comics entirely focused on Frank meeting Natasha at the 1988 Calgary Olympics. You know, explaining this. And actually, one of my favorite things that I do in this is I actually expand on Decoy Octopus. I actually give him a whole little story. And, you know, and oh, another thing, I want to talk about this. The Beauty and the Beast Corps, I actually revamped their characters and spread them throughout the series. Laughing Octopus was actually the adopted daughter of Decoy Octopus, and, like, Raging Raven is in this one story, but she's an agent of the Patriots, who she wants revenge on. She wants revenge on, you know, Solid Snake, but it turns out she actually wants revenge on a young Solidus from, you know, the 90s, back when he looked like, you know, Snake. And you have all these, you know, and those are the more interesting ones. The other ones aren't really as interesting. Crying Wolf is a sniper, and Laughing Mantis? No, it's Laughing Octopus, Raging Raven, Crying Wolf, and what was the emotion that was used for the last one? Screaming Mantis. Yeah, because screaming is an emotion. But, yeah, I mean, I still use those as different characters. Johnny actually, you know, I do his character justice and having him grow throughout the series, ultimately becoming one of the most genre-savvy characters in the series, surviving strictly because he's smart enough not to pick fights with people like Solid Snake. You know, it's stuff like that. Stuff that makes sense. Stuff that, you know, would ultimately develop and grow with these characters and the story and the plot. That's the main core of what my version of Metal Gear would be. And I actually would even do nods to some other, like, non-canon games. I actually mix a bit of Metal Gear Solid 2's plot with a few elements from Metal Gear Acid 2. Like, the big structure they're on is actually St. Logic Base, which is a company run by the front company for the Patriots, and stuff like that. You know, little nods like that to other things, and even a few references to Metal Gear Solid or Metal Gear Ghost Babel, which I really loved that game despite it being non-canon. But yeah, but really, you have to do is not, like, screw the characters over and not regress them and not make them worse characters than they were when they started. That's really the important thing that you don't do, and that's why every single character, like, you see I would show the entirety of, Raiden and Rosemary's relationship, and I show, like, And I show everything from, like, his perspective and her perspective and building up, you know, her faking being in love with him and then eventually falling in love with him. Because I change her character dramatically. I change his character. Not as dramatically, but I give them a lot more complexity. Because I really don't want to just spoil it. Because then why would anyone read the comic when I do it? But, yeah, that is the kind of stuff that I would do if I was in charge of this. I would do so many things differently. I would fix Metal Gear Solid, and really, I hope I get around to actually doing this and finishing it, because it would be something that I would absolutely love to do, and I'd love to just have that so I can show people this is how I would do Metal Gear Solid. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, man, I'm worn out by this long video. Jeez. Can't wait to see how long this video is going to be. Well, that's it for this video. Probably one of my least, you know, I wouldn't consider this my most intellectual video, but good golly, was this one hell of a topic to talk about. Well, that's it for this video. If you want to check out my last topic video, you can check it out here. And when I put my next topic video up, I'll be posting that here. So if you do have a topic you want me to talk about, just comment below if you're on YouTube, or you can even send me a message on YouTube. Or if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and do topic : and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure you're following the rules that I'll post below, and make sure that it's about something fictional, and it's not just a why do you like Y, or what do you think about X, or something super generic like that. Whew, this really wore me out. Talking about Metal Gear Solid, I always get really, really intense when I talk about Metal Gear Solid. I love this series. It just really went horribly wrong. Well, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.